I was standing near the champagne fountain when I saw him coming toward me. Marcus, my daughter's brand new husband. 6'2", designer tuxedo that probably costs more than my monthly pension. And a look on his face I'd seen before. Same one he wore when I showed up to their engagement party in my 15-year-old truck. But this time, he had 2 security guards with him. The reception was in full swing. 200 guests. A 12-piece orchestra. Ice sculptures that cost more than I'd spent on groceries in a year. I was clutching a glass of punch I hadn't sipped, trying to figure out where I belonged in this sea of people I didn't know. Marcus stopped 3 feet from me. Close enough that nearby guests turned to look. Close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and cold. "You don't belong here," he said. Loud, clear, like he wanted everyone to hear. I blinked. "I'm Emily's father. This is a celebration for people who actually matter to Emily's future." The words hit like a fist to my chest. I looked past him, desperate to find my daughter. Emily was standing 20 feet away in her white dress. The dress I'd offered to help pay for before Marcus's family made it clear my money wasn't needed. She was looking right at me. I waited for her to say something. Anything. She turned away. Marcus reached for the champagne fountain. He filled a crystal glass, and before I could process what was happening, he lifted it above my head and poured cold, sticky, running down my gray hair, soaking into the tuxedo I'd rented for $180 I couldn't afford. Camera phones came out. Guests gasped. Someone laughed as I walked out of that country club with champagne dripping from my collar. They had no idea I was also walking out with the only thing holding their perfect new life together. To understand how it got to that point, you need to know who Emily was to me, or who I thought she was 20-4 years ago. My wife Margaret lost her battle with breast cancer. Emily was 4 years old. I remember sitting on the edge of Margaret's hospital bed the night before she died, and she squeezed my hand with what little strength she had left. "Promise me you'll give her the world," she whispered. I promised. I was a middle school math teacher, making $52,000 a year. Not much, but it was steady, honest work. After Margaret passed, it was just me and Emily in our small 2-bedroom apartment. I never remarried. Never even dated seriously. Every ounce of energy I had went into raising that little girl. I can still see her at 6 years old, coming home with a skinned knee from the playground, tears streaming down her face. I cleaned the scrape, put on a bandage with cartoon characters, and she looked up at me with those big brown eyes, Margaret's eyes, and said, "Daddy fixes everything." I believed her. Sunday mornings were ours. I'd wake up early and make pancakes from scratch, Margaret's recipe, the one with vanilla and a pinch of cinnamon. Emily would stumble out of her room in her pajamas, hair messy, and climb into the chair at her tiny kitchen table. The smell of butter and maple syrup filled that apartment. For a few hours every week, the world was just us, and it was enough. Thursday nights were movie nights. We'd rent whatever she wanted, usually princess movies when she was young, comedies when she got older. I must have seen The Little Mermaid 40 times. I didn't mind. Her laughter was the only sound I needed to hear. Every summer, I worked construction jobs. Roofing, mostly. 95-degree heat, my back screaming by the end of the day, but that money paid for her dance classes. I sat front row at every recital, the only dad in a sea of mothers, holding flowers I'd picked up from the grocery store. When she was 16, we went prom dress shopping. She tried on a dozen dresses and finally found the one, navy blue. Made her look so grown up I almost cried. At the register, she hugged me and said, "You're the best dad ever." I kept that moment in my heart like a photograph. College was expensive. $47,000 over 4 years. I drove my 15-year-old Ford truck, lived in the same apartment, ate peanut butter sandwiches for lunch, and put every extra dollar into her education fund. When she graduated, honors degree in business. She told me in front of everyone, "I couldn't have done this without you." But she wanted to go to graduate school, Columbia, an MBA. $30,000, even with scholarships. I took out a loan against the apartment, postponed my retirement contributions, I was 58 years old and my retirement account should have had 150,000 in it. It had 40-3. When she bought her first condo at 25, she needed help with the down payment. $25,000. I gave it to her. Watched her sign the papers. Watched her get the keys. Watched her start building the life I'd always dreamed she'd have. I kept a photo on my classroom desk all those years. Emily at 4, sitting on my shoulders at the park, both of us laughing at something I can't remember anymore. Students would ask, "Is that your daughter?" And I'd smile and say, "That's my whole world." I thought we were a team. I thought all those sacrifices were building something that couldn't be broken. I thought love like that, the kind where you give everything and expect nothing back, was the strongest bond a people could have. I was wrong. The cracks started small. So small I told myself I was imagining them. Everything started to change 2 years ago. When Emily met Marcus, she was 31. Working as a financial analyst, making good money, $180,000 a year, more than I'd ever made in my life. She'd met him at some corporate mixer. Investment banker 34. Old money. The kind that gets passed down through generations and trust funds and summer homes. The first time she brought him to my apartment. I saw the way his eyes scanned the place. The worn couch I'd had since Emily was in high school. The linoleum kitchen floor with the crack near the fridge. The framed crayon drawings on the wall, pictures Emily had made me when she was 7. "Cozy," Marcus said, in a tone that meant anything but. I made dinner that night. Pot roast, Margaret's recipe. Emily used to beg me to make it. But halfway through the meal, when I said something about how I'd seen a good documentary, Emily interrupted me. "Dad, it's saw, not seen." Her voice was sharp, correcting like. I was a student who'd given the wrong answer. Marcus smiled into his wine glass. I laughed it off. "You're right, sweetheart, Saul." But something had shifted. She'd never corrected me like that before. Never made me feel small in front of someone else. A month later, she threw a dinner party at her condo. I only found out about it when I stopped by to drop off some books she'd asked for and saw the table set for 8. Candles, wine, the good china, she said. Standing in the doorway, like she didn't want to invite me in, "That's tonight. It's Marcus's professional circle. You'd be bored."
I'd mind, Dad, really?
"It's fine. I'll call you this week." She didn't call. The next visit was worse. I was meeting Marcus's parents for the first time. Dinner at some steakhouse where the menu didn't have prices. Before we went in, Emily pulled me aside. "Don't mention you're a teacher, okay?" I stared at her. "What?" "Just say you work in education or consulting. Marcus's dad is really into business." And she trailed off, but I heard what she didn't say. "You're an embarrassment." "Sure," I said quietly. "Whatever you want." At dinner, Marcus's father asked what I did. I opened my mouth, and Emily jumped in. "Dad works in education consulting." I sat there silent, while my daughter erased who I was. 6 months later, they got engaged. I found out on Instagram. I was scrolling through my phone after school, and there it was, Emily's hand. Diamond ring the size of a marble, Marcus kissing her cheek. Posted 4 hours earlier. 300 likes. I called her immediately. "Oh, Dad, I was going to call you." She sounded annoyed that I'd called. Not sorry she hadn't. I swallowed my hurt and said congratulations. 2 weeks later, I met her for coffee. I'd been saving, skipping meals, cutting back on everything, and I had $15,000 set aside. "I want to contribute to the wedding," I said. Sliding an envelope across the table, she opened it. Saw the check, and her face did something complicated. "What?" "You don't have to, I want to." Marcus appeared from the bathroom. Saw the check and actually laughed.
Ops.
"This wedding's going to cost more than your annual salary. We've got it covered." My daughter said nothing. I told myself she was just busy. Weddings are stressful. Marcus just needed time to warm up to me. But when the wedding invitation arrived 3 months later, my hands were shaking. Not from excitement, from something I couldn't name yet. The wedding was on a Saturday in June. I woke up at 6 in the morning, even though I didn't need to be at the venue until 2. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the father-daughter dance. What song would she choose? Would she cry? Would I? I picked up my rented tuxedo at 9. $180 for 24 hours. The kid at the counter couldn't have been more than 20. When he handed me the garment bag, I felt a wave of shame I couldn't explain. Marcus probably owned a dozen tuxedos. I was renting one I'd have to return Monday morning. I drove to the country club in my truck. The parking lot was full of Mercedes, BMWs, Teslas. I parked in the back corner, next to the dumpsters, where my F-150 wouldn't stand out so much. Each centerpiece cost more than my monthly grocery budget. I tried to find Emily before the ceremony. I just wanted to see her, to tell her I loved her, to have one moment that was ours. A bridesmaid I didn't recognize stopped me in the hallway. You can't go back there. She's getting ready. I'm her father. She's busy. You can see her after. I stood there in my rented tuxedo, holding a card with a $500 check inside, and nodded. The ceremony started at 3. I walked into the venue and looked for my seat. Front row, I assumed. Father of the bride. Third row. Left side. My name on a little card. The first 2 rows were filled with Marcus's family. His parents, front and center. I sat down between second cousins I'd met once 3 years ago at a funeral. The music began. Everyone stood. And then I saw her Emily, in a dress that cost more than my truck, walking down the aisle on the arm of Marcus's father. Not me. Marcus's father. I knew. Logically, I knew that some modern weddings have both fathers walk the bride. But no one had asked me. No one had told me. I found out the same moment as the 200 guests. Standing there watching another man give my daughter away, she didn't even look at me as she passed my row. After the ceremony, I fought through the crowd to reach her. She was surrounded by Marcus's family, taking pictures, laughing. "Emily," I said. She turned, and for a second, I saw my little girl. Then it was gone. "Dad. Hi." She gave me a stiff hug, the kind you give a distant relative. Thanks for coming. Like I was a guest. Like I hadn't raised her alone for 24 years. Marcus appeared, slid his arm around her waist, proprietary. "We need to get to the reception, babe." She was gone before I could say I loved her. The reception was worse. I found my table assignment. Table 17. In the back, near the kitchen doors, I sat with people I didn't know while my daughter danced with Marcus's. Family at the front, then the father-daughter. Dance was announced. I stood up. The DJ called Marcus's father to the classical music I didn't recognize. A waltz. Emily in her father-in-law's arms, smiling up at him while 200 people watched. I felt a hand on my shoulder, pushing me back down into my seat.
At your moment.
"Old man," one of Marcus's groomsmen said. I sat there, watching another man dance with my daughter at her wedding. The speeches started. Marcus's father talked about welcoming Emily into a family of substance. Marcus thanked everyone, the wedding planner, the caterer, his parents, Emily's bridesmaids. He didn't say my name. Emily took the microphone. "I'm so grateful to everyone who helped us get here." She looked everywhere except at me. I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up. The microphone was 10 feet away, unattended. I just wanted to say congratulations. To say I was proud of her. To remind everyone, and maybe her, that I existed. I made it 5 steps before Marcus intercepted me. "Sit down," he said. His hand was on my chest. "You've done enough. I just wanted to toast my daughter. You don't belong here." The room got quiet. People turned. "I'm Emily's father. This is a celebration for people who actually matter to Emily's future." His voice was loud now, carrying across the reception. "You're just a reminder of the past she's moved beyond." I looked past him, desperate. Emily. She was staring at her phone. Marcus walked to the champagne fountain. He filled a crystal glass. I knew what was coming, but I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything but stand there in my rented tuxedo and watch. He lifted the glass above my head. "You don't belong here," he said again, and poured. Cold champagne ran down my gray hair. Soaked into my collar, dripped onto the marble floor. Camera phones came out. I heard gasps, laughter, whispers. 2 security guards appeared. 1 on each arm, they walked me to the door. 200 feet through a silent crowd, champagne dripping with every step. Past tables of strangers. Past my daughter, who was now turned completely away. Outside, I sat in my truck and cried for the first time since Margaret's funeral. But then I remembered what was in my jacket pocket, and I stopped crying. I pulled out of that country club parking lot at 7:30. The reception was still going. I could hear the music through my closed windows. They were probably cutting the cake, dancing, celebrating. And I was driving home in a champagne-soaked tuxedo, wondering when I'd become disposable. The drive took 40 minutes. I didn't turn on the radio, just sat there, listening to the sound of my truck engine. The same sound I'd heard for 18 years, 240,000 miles of refusing to buy something better because Emily needed dance classes, college tuition, a down payment. When I got home, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, really looked at myself, 60-8 years old. Gray hair plastered to my head, still damp. Lines around my eyes from years of smiling at students, at Emily, at a life I thought meant something. The tuxedo hung on me awkward and wrong, like I was a kid playing dress-up in clothes that would never fit. I looked like exactly what Marcus had called me, a reminder of a past my daughter wanted to forget. I peeled off the wet jacket and saw the envelope in the inside pocket, the card with the $500 check, still sealed. I'd never gotten close enough to give it to her. I walked through my apartment seeing everything different now. The photos of Emily covered every surface. Emily at 4 on my shoulders. Emily at 10 missing her front teeth. Emily graduating high school, college, graduate school. Emily, Emily, Emily. And where were the photos of us together recently? I scanned the frames. The most recent one was from 5 years ago. Before Marcus, on my desk, I kept my bank statements in a folder. I'd always been organized, a teacher's habit. I pulled them out and started adding. Every tuition payment, every check for rent when she was in grad school, every birthday, Christmas, emergency car repair, security deposit, plane ticket home, $102,000, over 24 years. I'd given my daughter $102,000. I opened my retirement account statement. $43,000. At 68, that's what I had for the rest of my life. I should have had over $150,000. But every time I got close, Emily needed something. My truck was 18 years old. 240,000 miles. I'd replaced the transmission twice. My apartment was the same one we'd moved into when she was 8. I'd never upgraded. Never moved somewhere nicer. Every extra dollar went to her future, and she let her husband pour champagne on my head. I sat down on my worn couch and let myself remember things I'd been explaining away. 3 months ago, my 67th birthday. She sent a text at 11 p.m. "Happy birthday, Dad. Sorry, crazy day." Last Thanksgiving, she canceled 2 hours before dinner. Marcus's family is doing this thing. The time I called and she said, "Can I call you back?" and didn't for 6 days. The Sunday pancake tradition we'd kept for 20 years. She'd stopped coming 4 years ago. "I'm doing brunch with friends now, Dad." Every time I told myself she was busy, building her career. In love, happy. But the truth was simpler, wasn't it? I'd been useful when she needed money. Now Marcus had money? What did she need me for? My phone rang. My brother Frank. He lived in North Carolina. We talked every Sunday. "How was the wedding?" he asked. I told him everything. The third row. Marcus's father walking her down the aisle. Table 17. The champagne, the silence on the other end lasted so long I thought we'd been disconnected. "Jim," he finally said, his voice careful. "I'm going to say something I should have said years ago. Don't. She's been using you. I'm sorry, but you had to hear it. She's my daughter, and you're her ATM. Frank's voice cracked. I've watched you give everything for 24 years. I've watched her take and never once ask how you were doing. When's the last time she asked about your life, your health, your retirement? I opened my mouth to answer and couldn't. That's what I thought, Frank said quietly. We talked for another hour. By the end, I wasn't making excuses anymore. After I hung up, I sat in the silence of my small apartment and let myself admit the truth. My daughter didn't love me. Maybe she had once, when she was little and needed me. But somewhere along the way, I'd become a source of embarrassment and occasional funding. And now that Marcus's family had money and status, I was obsolete. Then I remembered something. 5 years ago, when Emily bought her condo, her credit wasn't established enough to qualify for the mortgage on her own. She needed a co-signer. I co-signed 2 years ago. She wanted to buy the unit next door and combine them into one luxury space. The bank needed someone on the deed for the refinance to go through. I signed. I'd been so proud to help her. So honored she trusted me. But now I went to my filing cabinet. I kept everything organized, always had, and pulled out the property documents. There it was. My name. Not as a co-signer who could be refinanced. It's off later as a 50% owner. She'd promised to take me off the deed after the wedding. Once she and Mark, former student of mine, 15 years ago, struggled with algebra until I stayed after school with him 3 days a week for a semester. Now he was a real estate attorney, Mr. H. He sounded surprised. Everything okay? Tom, I said, I need to ask you about property law. Of course. What's going on? I told him everything. The wedding. The champagne. The deed. When I finished, Tom was quiet for a moment. Mr. H, do you know what your rights are here? No. That's why I'm calling. You're a 50% owner. You can demand a buyout at fair market value, or you can force a sale of the property. Something shifted in my chest. What would you do? I asked. I'd make them buy you out, Tom said. And Mr. H? You taught me geometry when everyone else had given up on me. You've changed my life. I owe you. Let me handle this. I looked around my small apartment, at the champagne-stained tuxedo on the floor, at the photos of a daughter who'd turned her back on me. Okay, I said. Let's do it. I didn't do anything for 3 days. That's important. I want you to understand that what came next wasn't some emotional reaction. I didn't fire off angry emails or make threats I couldn't back up. I took my time. On Sunday, I met Tom at his office. Corner suite, view of the harbor, his name on the door in gold letters. He made coffee and we sat down with the property documents spread across his conference table. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, Tom said, reading through the deed. You're listed as a 50% owner, not a co-signer. An owner. That's right. And when was the last time you discussed removing you from the deed? I thought back. 2 years ago, when they did the refinance to buy the second unit. Emily said they'd take me off after the wedding once their combined income qualified them. But they haven't done that yet. No. Tom sat back in his chair. Mr. H, do you know what this means? I'm hoping you'll tell me. He opened his laptop and pulled up some documents. You have 3 legal options here. First, you can demand that they buy out your 50% share at fair market value. Based on recent sales in that building, we're looking at $1.2 million for the combined unit. Your half would be $600,000. $600,000. More than 10 years of my teaching salary? Second option, Tom continued, you can force a sale of the property. If they can't or won't buy you out, you have the legal right to compel them to sell. The property goes on the market, sells to a third party, and you split the proceeds 50-50 and third. You could demand occupancy rights. You own half the property? You have a legal right to live there? I actually laughed at that. The image of me showing up with my suitcase, moving into Emily and Marcus's luxury condo. I don't think so, I said. Tom smiled, but it faded quickly. Mr. H, I have to ask. Are you sure you want to do this? This is your daughter. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Tom had been 17 when I taught him. Struggled with math, struggled at home. His dad had left. His mom worked 3 jobs. I'd seen something in him, stayed late, helped him get his grades up enough for a scholarship. Tom, did I ever tell you why I became a teacher? No, sir. Because I wanted to help people. I wanted to make a difference in lives. I thought the most important thing I could do was give everything I had to the people I loved. I paused. But I've learned something. You can't pour from an empty cup, and mine's been empty for a long time. Tom nodded slowly. Then let's make this right. Spent the next 3 hours going through options. Tom explained that I could offer them first right of refusal, give them the chance to buy me out before forcing a sale. It was cleaner, faster, and honestly, despite everything, I didn't want to destroy Emily's life. I just wanted to stop funding my own disrespect, but I wanted one more thing. Can we require a written apology? I asked. Tom looked up from his notes. It's unusual, but yes. We can make it a condition of the offer. If they want to buy you out at the stated price, instead of going through a forced sale, they have to meet your terms. I want an apology. In writing. From both of them. Acknowledging how they treated me at the wedding. Tom wrote it down. And if they refuse, then we file for the forced sale. How much time do you want to give them? I thought about it. 72 hours. Tom drafted the letter over the next 2 days. It was professional, legal, and absolutely airtight. Dear Emily and Marcus, as you may recall, I am a 50% owner of the property located at 428 Harbor View Drive, Unit 12. I am hereby offering you the opportunity to purchase my ownership share at fair market value of $600,000. This offer expires in 72 hours from receipt of this letter. Should you decline or fail to respond, I will exercise my legal right to force a sale of the property. As a condition of this offer, I require a written acknowledgement from both parties regarding the treatment. Received at your wedding on June 14th, sincerely, James Hartley. While Tom finalized the paperwork, I did something else. I reached out to 3 people who'd been at the wedding. People I barely knew, but who'd witnessed the champagne incident. I sent polite emails asking if they'd be willing to provide statements about what they saw. In case this became a legal matter, 2 responded within hours. Both said they'd be happy to help. One said he'd been disgusted by what happened. The other said she almost left the wedding after seeing it. The third person, Marcus's cousin, ironically, sent me a video. I recorded it, he wrote. I thought Emily should see how her husband treated you. But when I tried to show her, she wouldn't look. I'm sorry this happened to you. I watched the video once. Saw myself standing there, hopeful, trying to get to the microphone. Saw Marcus intercept me. Heard him say, "You don't belong." Here, watched the champagne pour down over my gray hair while 200 people watched. I saved the file and never watched it. Again, I also went to the bank and put a stop payment on the $500 check I'd brought to the wedding. $500 back in my account. It wasn't much, but it was something. Then I did something I needed to do for myself. I wrote a letter to Emily, not the legal one, a personal one. I sat at my kitchen table with a pen and paper, and I wrote everything I'd never said. I wrote about teaching her to ride a bike in the parking lot of our apartment complex, how she'd fallen 6 times, and I'd picked her up 6 times, until finally she got it and rode in circles screaming, "I'm doing it, Daddy." I wrote about the night Margaret died, how Emily had crawled into my bed at 4 years old and asked when Mommy was coming home, how I'd held her and promised I'd take care of her forever. I wrote about working construction in 95-degree heat so she could go to dance camp, about driving my truck until it hit 200,000 miles because every extra dollar went to her college fund. I wrote about sitting front row at every recital, every graduation, every moment that mattered. And I wrote about the wedding, about table 17, about watching another man walk her down the aisle. About the champagne, I ended the letter with this. I thought I was your father. It turns out I was just your bank. I'm closing that account. I sealed it, but didn't send it. I wanted to see how they responded to the legal letter first. I also spent time researching something I'd never let myself consider before: retirement. With $600,000, I could actually retire. I looked at small houses in North Carolina, near Frank, found one in Asheville for $220,000. 3 bedrooms, a porch, a view of the mountains. I let myself imagine it, waking up without an alarm. Reading on the porch, Sunday dinners with Frank's family, a life where I wasn't waiting for my phone to ring, hoping my daughter might call. On Wednesday morning, Tom sent the letter. Certified mail to their condo. Email to both their addresses. The clock started. 72 hours. I sat in my apartment and waited to find out if my daughter had ever really loved me, or if I'd spent 24 years buying affection that was never really there. The first response came 18 hours after. Tom sent the letter. My phone rang at 8 in the morning. Marcus, not Emily. I almost didn't answer, but I wanted to hear this. Can't do this. His voice was sharp, angry. No greeting, no pretense. That's, "Oh, you are home." I kept my voice calm. "I'm a 50% owner, Marcus. Check the deed. You're trying to extort us. We just got married, for God's sake. I'm offering you first right of refusal at fair market value. That's not extortion. That's me exercising my legal property rights. You have 54 hours left to respond. We'll sue you. You can try. I've consulted an attorney. I'm well within my rights." I paused. 54 hours, Marcus. He hung up on me. I made myself breakfast and waited. 32 hours in, my phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Still not a call? "Dad, this is really unfair. We just got married. Can we talk about this later?" I stared at that message for a long time. Really unfair. Not "I'm sorry." Not "I should have defended you." Not even "Can we talk?" Just that this was unfair to her. I typed back, "You had me thrown out of your wedding with champagne poured on my head. We can talk when I receive your written response to my offer. You have 40 hours remaining." She didn't respond. At 48 hours, my phone rang again. Different number? "James, this is Robert Brennan, Marcus's father. The man who'd You're a school teacher. You don't understand how these financial matters work. The kids are just starting out. We'll give you $200,000 to refinance you off the deed. That's more than generous. My half is worth $600,000. Mr. Brennan? The answer is no. Don't be greedy. James, $200,000 is a lot of money for someone in your position." "Oh, someone in my position?" Like I was beneath him. "You're right," I said. "It is a lot of money. But $600,000 is what I'm owed. You have 24 hours. I hung up on him. It felt better than it should have. At 60 hours, Tom called. They've hired a lawyer. Big firm downtown. He called me this morning, said, "You're being emotionally manipulative, and they're prepared to fight this." What did you tell him? I said my client is exercising his legal property rights. If they prefer litigation to a fair buyout, we're prepared to proceed. But discovery will be expensive, time-consuming, and the outcome is certain. You own 50%. Their lawyer got quiet after that. Good Mr. H. They're going to push back hard in the next 12 hours. Are you ready? I looked around my small apartment. At the life I'd built on sacrifice. At the champagne-stained tuxedo I still hadn't returned. I'm ready. At 68 hours, Emily finally called. She was crying. "Daddy, please." The word she hadn't used in years. "This is our home. We just got married. Why are you doing this to us?" I closed my eyes. Heard that little girl who used to call me her hero. "Emily, do you know what I was doing 68 hours ago?" Silence. "I was being escorted out of your wedding. Do you remember that? Marcus was just, he poured champagne on my head in front of 200 people. And you stood there and turned away. I didn't know he was going to do that. But you didn't stop him. You didn't apologize. You didn't call me afterward. You texted me 32 hours later saying this was unfair." My voice cracked. "I raised you alone for 24 years. I gave you everything I had. And you let him humiliate me like I was nothing? It's not fair. I was overwhelmed. It was my wedding day. When did I stop being your father, Emily? When did I become just an ATM? Don't say that, then tell me. When's the last time you asked how I was doing? When's the last time you visited without needing something? When's the last time you said thank you for the $100,000 I gave you while I drove a truck with 200,000 miles on it? The silence stretched out. We don't have $600,000 liquid, she finally said. Your wedding cost $300,000. You make $180,000 a year. Marcus is an investment banker. His family has money. Figure it out. I took a breath. And Emily? The offer requires a written apology from both of you, acknowledging specifically what happened at the wedding. We can't just, you have for hours. If I don't receive your response, Tom files for a forced sale tomorrow morning. Dad, for hours, Emily. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I'd never hung up on my daughter before. Never told her no. Never demanded anything. It felt like standing up after 24 years on my knees at 71 hours. An email arrived from the law firm representing Marcus's family. A formal offer, $400,000. Take it or leave it. Closing in 30 days. No apology. I forwarded it to Tom with one line, declined. Proceed with forced sale filing. 30 minutes later, my phone exploded. Emily calling. Marcus calling. Marcus's father calling. I didn't answer any of them. At 71.5 hours, Emily called again. I almost didn't pick up. Dad, please. We'll lose the condo. We'll have to sell everything, please. You should have thought of that before you let your husband pour champagne on me. Sorry. I'm sorry, okay? Is that what you want to hear? I want it in writing, with specifics. You have 30 minutes, Emily. Hung up at 72 hours. Exactly an email arrived from Emily. Dad, I'm sorry for how you were treated at the wedding. It was wrong. Please reconsider this. Love, Emily. I read it 3 times. No mention of the champagne. No mention of her silence. No mention of Marcus's father walking her down the aisle or table 17. Or 24 years of being taken for granted. And nothing from Marcus at all. I opened my laptop and typed a response. Emily, I asked for an apology that acknowledges the specific disrespect, the champagne incident, the exclusion, the years of taking me for granted. I asked for it from both of you. This doesn't meet the terms. I've instructed my attorney to file for a forced sale of the property. You'll receive your proceeds after closing. I won't be in contact again unless legally necessary. I'm moving to North Carolina to be near Uncle Frank. I hope your marriage brings you everything you value, which apparently isn't me. Dad, I attached the personal letter I'd written. The one about bike rides and dance recitals and promises I'd made to Margaret. Then I hit send. 2 hours later, Marcus left a voicemail, screaming, calling me a bitter old man, a vindictive bastard, saying I'd always been dead weight in Emily's life. I saved it. Evidence of harassment, Tom said. 4 hours later, one of Emily's friends called, trying to mediate. I politely declined. The next day, the condo was listed. Tom knew a good realtor. The market was strong. 2 days after that, I got a call from Tom. Mr. H. Marcus's father just made an offer. $650,000 for your half. Cash, they want to close immediately and avoid the embarrassment of a public sale. $650,000. Tell them I accept. Closing took 2 weeks. I signed the papers on a Tuesday morning in Tom's office. By Tuesday afternoon, I had $650,000 in my bank account. I put $500,000 into retirement investments. I bought a house in Asheville, North Carolina for $220,000. Cash, 3 bedrooms, a porch, a view of the mountains. 20 minutes from Frank. I kept $30,000 for moving expenses and living costs. That Tuesday evening, Emily left a voicemail. I didn't listen to it for 3 weeks. I moved to Asheville 3 weeks. After the closing, my new house sits on a quiet street with oak trees and actual neighbors who wave when they see you. It has 3 bedrooms, one for me, one for an office, one for when Frank visits. The porch faces the mountains. I sit out there every morning with my coffee and watch the sun come up over the ridges. I'm 20 minutes from Frank and his family. We have dinner every Sunday. His grandkids call me Uncle Jim. I volunteer at the public library 4 days a week, helping kids with math homework. Turns out I'm still a teacher, just not in a classroom anymore. And I adopted a dog. A 7-year-old hound mix named Scout. He sleeps at the foot of my bed and follows me everywhere. I don't have much news from Emily's life. What I know comes through Frank, or occasionally through mutual acquaintances. I know they had to take a loan from Marcus's father to pay me, the $650,000. I know Robert Brennan was furious with them, not for how they treated me, but for being sloppy enough to forget about the deed. I know the video of the champagne incident made its way through their social circle. Apparently, one of Marcus's business associates saw it, and it caused some awkward conversations. In finance, character matters. Marcus's reputation took a small hit. I know Emily tried to reach me. Voicemails every few weeks. Texts on my birthday, on Christmas. Hope you're well. Miss you. Love you. Surface words. Nothing real underneath. I never responded. 6 months after I moved, Marcus's family's lawyer sent a cease and desist letter, threatening to sue me for defamation. I'd told my story to a few people in Asheville, not many. Just when it came up naturally, Tom responded with the video and witness statements from the wedding. They backed off immediately. Frank told me Emily called him once, crying, asked him how to fix things with me. Frank asked her, "Did you really apologize?" Not just say the words, but actually acknowledge what happened. Emily said, "I tried." Frank said, "Did you acknowledge standing there while your husband poured champagne on your father's head?" She hung up on him. A year after the wedding, Emily sent a longer email. It was more honest than anything she'd sent before. She admitted she'd been embarrassed by my blue-collar background, that Marcus had influenced her, that she'd made mistakes. But then she said I'd overreacted and destroyed our relationship over money. I read it twice. Started to write a response. I didn't destroy our relationship over money. You destroyed it when you treated me like I didn't matter. The money was just me refusing to fund my own disrespect. I deleted the draft without sending it. I was done explaining myself. 18 months after the wedding, Frank mentioned casually that Emily was pregnant. I felt it like a punch. I was going to be a grandfather. She never told me herself. It's been 18 months since that wedding. I'm 70 now. People ask if I regret it. Here's my answer. I regret losing my daughter every single day, but I don't regret standing up for myself. Not once. Here's what I've learned. You can't love someone into respecting you. Respect is a choice they make. Emily made hers. My life now is quiet. I volunteer at the library for mornings a week. I'm dating a woman named Carol, a widow, kind, laughs at my jokes. We take Scout for walks and have dinner twice a week. Nothing serious, just comfortable.